Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia. I am a wedding photographer at Lydia Rachel Photography and your host. On today's episode, I have a lovely chat with Tyler. She is a recent bride and also founder of unknowingly, who do signage and stationery design for your wedding. I absolutely loved this chat. It was so great to hear her journey, and she gave lots of amazing advice as well. We talk about their venue hunt, looking at a few different places and ending up deciding to do it on the family farm. We chat about what it was like to plan a wedding with a newborn. Their baby was 5 months old at their wedding, so juggling all of that organisation, dress shopping with a changing body, and creating a wedding venue from scratch. I love Tyler's energy and creativity, and she just had some really good nuggets of gold in there, so this is definitely going to be a helpful one. Let's get into it. Enjoy episode 88 with Tyler. Hi Tyler, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So excited to chat all about your wedding planning experience and being a vendor as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. I've been really looking forward to it.
So good. So to get started with, if you could tell me a bit about you and your husband, how you guys met and your life together.
So my husband, Ethan, and I met 4.5 years ago on Hinge, the dating app. It was actually recommended to him from a friend for a good spot for hookups. So he lined me up, and 4.5 years later we're married and actually have a 7-month-old baby with us. So didn't quite go to plan for him, but I think it went pretty to plan for me. So we live out in Whenuapai in Auckland, and pretty much our life revolves around our daughter now that the wedding's all over. And that's pretty much our story.
So good. Love the dating app that, turned into something more than just a casual thing. Love it.
It's pretty common now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So many couples meet that way. So, yeah, so good. And so you were together for a while and got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about the proposal story?
Yeah, so we'd been together a couple of years and wanted to start trying for a family. So I did say to him, so my father doesn't kill you, I should probably have a ring on my finger. And so when we headed over to Bartle, we had a stopover in Melbourne and I picked out a ring. 9 months later, I was actually planning a long weekend away for us, just at my parents' farm where they've got a little Airbnb. Didn't think much of it. And Ethan took that opportunity to allow me to plan my very own engagement. So we headed down, and when we got to the farm, I got Ethan to drop me off down the bottom of the hill so I could walk up with the dog. And when I got up, he'd unpacked the car and he was acting really sus over by his bags. And I tried to talk to him. He quickly ducked outside. I thought that was really weird. And he was out playing with the dog, and he said to me, "Oh, do you want to see something cool?" and reached down his pants. And I was like, "Mate, we've literally just got here." And he pulled out a ring. So he got down on one knee at pretty much the most special place to me in the whole world. Proposed. Obviously, I almost tackled him saying yes. And then my mum had hidden flowers and champagne at the house, and we had a beautiful family lunch the next day, and it was so perfect. And the fact he got it done without me even realising was the biggest surprise. But he knew that if he tried to organise anything, I would be on to him. So, yeah, notes, boys, as if you do want to get away with it, let the girl plan it accidentally.
So good. Love that. Definitely got the surprise factor. And had you been one of those girls that kind of dreamed about your wedding? Did you have a specific vision in mind, know what you wanted? What were those kind of first steps starting to plan it?
Yes, I think I've been planning my wedding since I'd heard of weddings. I was that sort of person that has been sending my mum pictures of wedding dresses since I was 16. I've had the Pinterest board since I was 16. So starting the planning was super overwhelming for me because as trends have popped up and disappeared, I guess so's my Pinterest board. It's peaked and it's come back down. And if you scroll through it, there's probably about 10 different weddings planned in there. So yeah, getting started for me was a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. I thought I would kind of have my stuff sorted, but I just changed my mind so many times that I just couldn't believe I now had to actually make the decisions. It was no longer hypothetical. So the vibe for us was definitely we wanted a vibrant wedding, but I didn't want it to be on that trend that we had been seeing come through quite a lot, because as much as I absolutely loved it, I was so worried it would die off, and I would kind of look at it thinking that wasn't the wedding I wanted. That was just something I thought looked cool. So as we started planning, I kind of proposed the idea of having a bit of a pink theme to my husband. Having always loved pink, I thought it would be untrue to myself if I didn't run with it. And he was so easygoing. He couldn't have cared less about the colour scheme. He just said as long as he doesn't have to wear a pink suit. So I kind of grabbed that and just decided to go with something really vibrant, fun, but really true to us as a couple in terms of the look. And then in terms of the actual day, I sat down with Ethan and said to him, like, look, what is important to you so that I don't go off on a tangent and, create a day that only suits me. And his was definitely, he just wanted an incredible day with his family and friends. And so that was kind of the overall idea, was just we wanted to have as much fun with those people that matter the most to us. And I think we definitely achieved it. It was hard going, but that was pretty much in the back of our mind the entire time we were planning, was just everybody's enjoyment.
So good. And that was kind of my next question about your top priorities. Was there anything else that you were thinking of, like the most important things to you?
For me, it was the look. For Ethan, it was the food and booze. So, we compromised and focused on all three. And yeah, I'm so glad we did, because the food was a huge highlight for everyone, and it was not necessarily traditional in the sense. So we kind of sat down and talked about what we thought we could achieve food-wise, budget-wise, because it is so expensive catering. Holy shit, like, you don't realize, but as soon as everything's per person, you start to really...
It's one of the biggest costs, right?
Oh, it's insane. And you think, I would never spend that amount on them out at dinner.
Yeah.
And yet here I am, spending it on everyone on one night. But we made it work, and yeah, it was definitely a highlight. And same with the booze. That was another real contributing factor when we were picking our venue, was the alcohol requirements, the cost of the alcohol and whatnot. That was pretty much one of the main decision-making points for us as well.
Did you end up looking at a few different venues, or did you know where you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I dragged Ethan around to a bunch of venues and kind of started a spreadsheet where I just weighed up so many aspects of different places, like nearby accommodation, required transport if we needed buses, the catering, if you could bring caterers in or catering on site. And then, like I said, the contributing factor was the alcohol, which I didn't think would be a major, but there was a lot of venues that you had to buy the alcohol from their bar. And you look at their bar menus and a bottle of wine's $60. And I'm like, I know girls that can drink at least two. So, and like beers being $12, $15 each. I'm like, we'll go broke if we do it that way. And then others required registered bartenders, which, you look into them and they're $2.5 grand plus just to have them there serving the drinks. So that was all formatted into the venue spreadsheet. And we did find one that we really, really liked up north called Vanderosa Farm. And we went and visited it, loved it to pieces. And the only thing that really deterred us was the logistical nightmare of getting everyone bused to the venue. And it wasn't impossible. It had been done, and we kind of started chatting like why we loved the venue so much. And we loved it because it reminded me of my parents' farm. And it was pretty much a copy and paste. If we had it at mum and dad's farm, it was going to be a logistical nightmare. So we weighed up our options, and we just thought, why don't we take on the logistical nightmare at our own property? And so we kind of took the proposal to my parents and convinced them to let us have it on the farm, even though they were originally very, very against it. And that was the decision that made the whole day in hindsight. And I can't believe we almost didn't have it there. and there will never be another wedding there as well. So if you see the photos and like them, I have to apologize because I think my parents are traumatized. But no, that was the biggest decision-making moment, I think, was just, sitting down and actually evaluating why we liked the venue, and, coming to terms with the fact it was because it reminded us of somewhere even more special. So, going there and doing it on the farm, although it was a nightmare, it was, I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, so meaningful and special. Definitely means you're taking on a lot, getting the property ready and bringing everything in that you need. But like you say, so unique, and it's kind of nice getting married somewhere no one else probably will, just having different photos and everything. So
yeah, and funnily enough, everyone's always like, oh, that's good, you'll be saving money there. I can confirm no money was saved at all, but we had other benefits like no curfew. We had the venue obviously for as long as we needed to get it ready. It wasn't that kind of in at 10 a.m, packed up 10 a.m the next day. So I always say we got way more for our money. But we still spent what we thought we'd spend.
Sure, not always cheaper, but flexible. So good. Can you talk to us a bit about your wedding outfits, your dress? How was that process, finding it, getting it made?
So we, as I mentioned earlier, were trying for a family, and we were successful, and we were going to have a 5-month-old at the wedding. So when I went to go and try dresses on, I'd kind of weighed up how and when to try them on in terms of what my body was going to be like 5 months postpartum. So I'd always said I'd go around 3 months pregnant. So I'd have a bit of a belly, and so I'd kind of be a little bit more kinder in what style I chose. And it was actually a real accident by my dress. There was a designer doing a trunk show here that I'd seen, an Australian designer called Kelly Lynn Couture, and she was doing a trunk show in Auckland, and I just said to Mum, look, can we just pop there? I just want to try on some dresses and get an idea of what I'm looking for in this new body of mine. And we got there, I picked out a few just to show my mum, like necklines and silhouettes. And the second one I tried on, I just, as I was putting it on, I just said to Mum, just don't pay attention to what the bottom of it looks like. It's all about the neckline. And I put it on, and I opened the curtain, and Mum's like, that's it. And I said to her, I was like, you can't say that yet. Like, it's the second dress I've tried on. And so we tried on a few more that day, and I just said, no, I've put my wedding dress on, and I want to go and put that second one on again. And I did, tried it back on. I just said, this is the dress, and it had this beautiful overskirt that could be removed. And I think that was a real contributing factor to me, because I felt like I was getting 2 looks for the price of one. And yes, I just bought that on the spot, never tried on another dress. And I still look at it today, and I just cannot believe how perfect it was. And I was so sure I'd changed my mind about it, because I got it almost a year before the wedding. And it just, it was perfect. And I'm so, so glad. And it barely needed any alterations. The owner of the salon tried to convince me to go the size that I was. She was like, oh, like, you'll bounce back. It's your first baby. I was like, absolutely not. So I ordered the size up, and I'm so glad I did, because I just had no stress of trying to fit into the dress. And that's another thing, is I don't think it's worthwhile for anyone to be starving themselves leading up to the wedding. You've got so much other stuff on and stuff to worry about. The last thing you need to be stressing about is fitting into a dress.
Such good advice. So nice that you had that experience. And it's funny when it ends up being like the first or second that you tried on, and sticking to that decision. So you look so beautiful on the day.
Thank you.
And did you have a bridal party? And if so, how was that process choosing them? Did you find that quite easy?
I found it easy, but my lovely husband would have had 20 groomsmen if he could have, if I allowed him to. He just has so many really, really incredibly close friends. And so he struggled to narrow his down, because I only had 3 really close girlfriends that I wanted standing by my side. And he was challenged to getting past that 4 mark. And one of his groomsmen, actually, he's in the Defence Force, and he had the possibility of not actually being there. And so I said, just why don't you include them all? And, if he can't be there, then we have an even amount. And if he can be there, who cares if we're unsymmetrical. And sure enough, he was there, and I didn't even notice the fact that there was one more groomsman. So I just think if that's something, because I'm all about the symmetry and things, but if that's something that maybe another bride's confused about, our photographers made it work so well, and it was just not noticeable at all. So if you are on an uneven amount, just go for it. I reckon have who you want up there, those that are important to you. But my bridal party was actually like a bit of not a nightmare, a bit of a stress, is that one of my bridesmaids lived in London, and the other two, which I did co-maid of honours, they were both also pregnant. So when it came to doing dresses, one had just had her baby when she tried it on. One was 36 weeks pregnant when she tried hers on, and the other didn't try hers on until the morning of the wedding. So we went with black bridesmaids, which I think a lot of brides do, and I can see why. They were just so incredible, so helpful. I didn't even go to the meeting. I just had Elsie, and I was sick as well. So we FaceTimed the mountain shop, and what the bridesmaid of mine that had just had the baby, she tried on all the dresses because she was the only one that physically could. And they gave us so much advice. They were so prompt in replying, and they helped us decide on styles that were going to be really accommodating for changing body types. And I seriously can't believe it. Like, we didn't get any alterations done on the dresses, and the girls just looked incredible.
So lucky, this all seemed to work out in the end.
I know.
I feel like that's such great advice as well about the uneven numbers thing. People can get really stuck on that, but it can actually be fine. It's not going to ruin your photos, and have your most important people. Don't cut someone out just because of numbers.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Good. And how about the guest list? Did you find that quite tricky to narrow down? How many did you end up having?
Yeah, so when we said we were getting married, we wanted a small wedding. We wanted it to be intimate. We wanted just our most special people. And so we decided on 80. And then Ethan started his friends guest list, and he got 80 friends that he'd like to invite. So that we were humbled so quickly. Yeah, it was impossible to narrow it down. So I think we invited 110. And to begin with, everyone accepted. And I was gutted because I didn't want 110 people at the wedding. But then slowly it did start to dwindle, and it sounds terrible, but every time someone told us they couldn't come, I celebrated. I was just like, obviously we wanted everyone there, but slowly, we had cousins that couldn't make it, and it sounds terrible, but I was relieved. I was like, finally, we're getting down to that guest list that we're wanting. And so we did end up around the 90 mark, which in photos looks so much smaller than it really is, and I couldn't believe it. So we did manage to dwindle it down, and that was probably a huge cost as well, as having that 90 person guest list. Okay, my brother had 130 at his. I can't even begin to imagine what his catering bill was.
Oh, nice to land there in the end. Just even being under that 100 mark, I feel like helps and feels a bit more intimate. So
definitely.
So good. Can you walk us through a bit of your big day, maybe a little bit of the lead up to it, and any highlights or favourite moments?
So the lead up to it is such a blur. We were in the newborn trenches for the whole lead up. So I was kind of trying to survive that period of our life while also trying to pull off the wedding, but I had done a lot of the decision making before having the baby, which helped. But there was a lot of things that our priorities just changed so quickly. All of a sudden, I am a vendor myself, and I had all these incredible plans for what I was going to do. I was going to use it as a showcase for my business. And that went out the window pretty quick. I was just like, I don't care. Like, I couldn't care less about this. I couldn't care less about that. But then closer to the wedding, as we came out of those deep trenches, I started to be like, oh shit, like I do care about that. And so we started like scrambling to get a few things ready. But in terms of the like really close lead up, we, it was all hands on deck the day before the wedding. We actually had a little bit of an issue with our marquee going up. So we didn't even get the marquee ready until about 4 o'clock the day before. And, I talk about how it's amazing that we had the venue for longer, but we didn't really. So once that marquee was up, we had probably about 10, 15 of Ethan's friends perfectly folding the napkins and laying out all the place cards. And thankfully, they're all military, so they were all very, very good at that. But it wasn't what I had thought it would be. We had the night before catch up with all our guests at like a local restaurant, and we were the last ones to get there, about an hour and a half late, which wasn't part of the plan. I just wanted to sit down and really enjoy it. But me and Ethan spent half the night sitting on a table away from everyone trying to like sort shit out. So that was a bit disappointing, but that was probably the worst part of the whole wedding, because when it came to the morning of, I woke up to pristine weather. Where we were getting married, it was on a hill, it was super exposed to wind, and there wasn't even a breath of wind. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, we've had wind blow barbecues away up there. And I was prepared for that. But yeah, we just woke up. It was so perfect. I had nothing to do with the venue the morning of, and that's really, really important, is have someone redirect communications to someone else. So my mum was the point of call at the bridal house, and she had decided she would only come to me once a few times with all the questions that there were. There weren't many questions, but it meant that I wasn't constantly being bothered. And it was amazing. Apparently it was horribly hectic up at the venue, but I was none the wiser. I was just having the best day of my life. And so if you can do that, do it, because it just meant that I wasn't turning up stressed and overwhelmed and worried about anything. I turned up just calm as ever, just so peaceful, just knowing that Ethan had been running around like a headless chicken for the last like 6 hours. But that's where the boys take over, because us girls have had all the stress leading up. But yeah, so we started out at a friend's house, and my mum actually surprised me with a robe that my nana had made using both of their wedding dresses, which was so, so special. Having a daughter of my own, getting like an heirloom piece like that to pass on was just really, really special. I also was surprised with a friend of my dad's, whose house that we were getting ready at, surprised me with a retro Bentley, cream convertible. Oh my God, it's worth more than some people's houses, and it was his late father's. And I turned up to get ready and just saw this, like, you could not get a more perfect wedding car. It should be hired out, and I could not believe that I was going to my wedding in that. I felt like an absolute queen. Other highlights was we had our dog at the venue off leash, because he knows the farm like the back of his hand. So he actually ended up greeting all the guests as they arrived, and he was running down the hill with them, kind of like showing them where they're sitting. And that's a huge highlight for us, because he is such a big part of our family, and even through all the photos is him in every single one of them. And I just think it's hilarious, because everyone knows him and knows how important he is to us. Having my daughter there, she had a dress that matched mine. I had pearl detailing across my bodice, and her little dress had pearl detailing around it, and this beautiful big pearl bow on the back. And that is just something that I don't think like it will ever be trumped, is just having her there. She walked down the aisle with my mum, and it was just, again, it was so special and so meaningful. And it's what your day's all about, is about those moments versus this is like the colour of the flowers, There's an outdoor bath at the Airbnb where we got married. I filled that with pals. So it was self-service. That was one of my big dreams, was just having everyone being able to go nuts with whatever they wanted. So having self-service alcohol was quite cool. We did have bartenders as well for like wine and stuff, but it meant that the boys could just get as many beers as they wanted. We got married on crate day, so I let Ethan have some crates at the wedding. We had like a champagne bar at the point, so it really ticked off that important aspect for us, which was the party. And then the main contributing factor, I guess, for the actual venue looking like a venue was my dad built this floating circle platform off the side of the hill where we had the ceremony. And in all the photos, it looks like $1 million venue. And it was literally just Dad out in the shed pulling together some plywood and whatnot. He'd probably say it was a lot harder than that, but it looked pretty easy. And that's what got people messaging me, being like, oh, where was this? And I was like, oh, just a paddock. But it transformed a cow's paddock into a venue. And I couldn't believe that we almost didn't have it.
So special. So many amazing highlights. Sounds like such an epic day, and so like lucky with the location and the weather and everything.
Yeah, and I could honestly, I made some points, and I could just go on and on and on, but I could not believe how lucky we were and how everything essentially went off without a hitch.
What did you find like the hardest part about the whole wedding planning process? Is there anything you look back on and regret or would have done a little bit differently?
Um, I think planning it with a baby was actually beneficial to me because it took, a lot of pressure off of the day. And I think that's what I'd struggled with for a wee bit and I got quite overwhelmed with was I just had this approach that I was like hosting kind of a paid event, but it's not a paid event. It's, you're not selling tickets to this thing. It's about you. It's not about all the guests that are coming and whether they'll enjoy this or they'll enjoy that. It's about you enjoying this and that. Well, you and your partner, I should say. And then the other massive thing was our photographer cancelled on us 4 weeks out.
Wow.
And she was probably the second vendor I booked a year and a half in advance. When we decided where we were having it, we booked our marquee and our photographer because those were things that I didn't want to miss out on. And I hadn't heard from her for over a year. And I reached out to her a couple months out from the wedding, asking for some help on our timeline planning because I had no idea how to plan that. And a month after, then she didn't reply. I followed up again. And then, 4 weeks out, she emails me, oh my gosh, I've double booked you. And I couldn't believe it. Like, she was a Together Journal photographer. We didn't cheap out at all on this photographer. I won't name it. It's no point doing that. And I was just scrambling. I couldn't believe it. I was like, if I can get like a photographer in 4 weeks' time, like someone that I genuinely want as well, because I'd put so much importance on the photography and we'd contributed a huge amount of our budget to it. And so we were scrambling. I actually had a photographer that I worked with quite a lot through my business that I reached out to, and she put out a post on a New Zealand photography page, hunting out some people with the same style because they were unfortunately booked. And we came across Savannah Walker, who actually lives nearby us, and I paid her deposit within 6 hours of finding out our photographer had cancelled. I was just so, so relieved to find her. And she, was video chatting to us a few days later. She sent us all this timeline help. She even went to the farm before the wedding to scout out, to get an idea of it. So she wasn't going to be turning up unsure. And I can't stress enough that that's what you should be getting from your vendors. You are paying them so, so much money. You should be getting the assistance leading up to the day. You're not just paying a caterer to give food to your guests. You're paying them for their service and, turning up promptly and everything on time. Like you need to get what you pay for. And now looking back, I can't imagine having anyone other than Savannah. Like, she left that wedding feeling like a part of the family. She was just so amazing. She was so helpful the morning of. She was running around helping me get my dress on, helping me pick earrings. There was just, her service was unbelievable. I could not recommend her enough to everyone. She included a second photographer. They had drone photography, and it was all things that we weren't going to be having. Even Ethan, like, he wasn't too wound up in the whole photography thing, and he just said to me, I cannot believe we almost had a wedding without her.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you had that experience. Must have been so stressful that close to the day. And I know how far out photographers we book. So amazing that Savannah was free and she's got beautiful work and sounds like a dream to work with. So
absolutely.
So glad that worked out in the end. Did you guys have a budget you were working with? If you're happy to talk about what that was and how you found that whole process, did you end up blowing it?
Yeah, so I was very well behaved. I do budgeting quite a lot with my main job as a marketing manager. So I approach the budget very realistically because it's no longer my company's money I'm spending. It is, it's our money. So we were engaged a year and a half out from our wedding, but the last 6 months of that I was going to be on maternity leave. So we gave ourselves 12 months to save. And we worked out our budget based off of what we knew we could save in those 12 months, because we didn't want to touch our, personal savings for it. We wanted to only have a wedding that was within our means. And that's so important. Don't go into debt for your wedding. Like, just have the wedding you can afford. And I know it's hard to say, if you need to have a longer engagement, have a longer engagement and have the day you want. After doing all those maths, we set the budget at 50,000. Originally, when we thought about getting married, we thought, we could have a wedding for 30, but realistically, the wedding we wanted was a $50,000 wedding. And with my budgeting, I budgeted 45. And so a really big tip is save a 10% buffer. And if that 10% buffer might come from a different account, that's great, but everything will blow out. Or if something doesn't blow out, something else will. So having that 10% buffer meant that if I got a quote in, like, for example, we didn't see that our $500 catering booking fee wasn't actually taken from the overall cost. So that added $500 last minute to something that I hadn't budgeted for. We decided to have late night pizza and, mini fireball shots with our names on them. There's a couple of grand, easy. So, that 10% buffer saved us, and we did hit pretty bang on the 50 grand mark. If I went and did like some really close by numbers, looking up things like all those little bits and bobs you get the week of, we might have blown it, but I'd say we sat pretty close around that 50 grand mark.
That's such great advice, having the buffer and just planning for that, because honestly it always happens. I feel like everybody says that, but yeah, kind of saving but holding that last little bit back. That's so good.
Yeah.
Did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
No, so because we got married in December, I've always stood by the fact I hate leaving New Zealand in summer because you're missing out on the best time to be in New Zealand. So we opted not to go on a honeymoon straight away. We did, Ethan started his parental leave while I was still on mine. So we did have a month just kind of in the Coromandel down in Nelson, just together as a family. And that was really, really nice. It's like a bit of a come down from the wedding. But we have Mexico on our horizons. But obviously with that comes more money. So we're having to save up for that to make sure that we can have the wedding we wanted and the honeymoon that we want.
Something to look forward to. So good. Nice that you could like align that time as well to have together, and then rolling into Christmas and everything. So good. Did you have any sort of helpful resources, different apps or websites that you used during the planning process in terms of finding vendors or inspiration? You mentioned Pinterest, which is always a goodie, but anything else there?
I would just say I just followed so many Instagram accounts. I was listening to these podcasts, daily, getting an idea of learning other people's lessons so you don't have to learn them yourself. A huge recommendation there. But I just think the biggest piece of advice is to lean on your vendors. Once again, you are paying them. Yeah. They are there to help you. And being a vendor myself, I try help brides out, even with money saving tips, things that I'm aware of. I will always tell my brides, even if it means I don't get business from it, because that's what we're there to do. We are there to help you have your most incredible day, and that's what we saw from our vendors, is they understand how important weddings are. You're paying them a good dime, so utilize them. Ask them all the questions. Get them to help you with your timeline. Get them to help set up on things, or just take advantage of what you're paying for is my biggest piece of advice, and you won't regret it. And they love to help as well.
Yeah, so good. You've given a lot of amazing advice there, but is there anything else you would say kind of from that bride perspective to a couple that's planning their wedding at the moment?
Just don't forget the most important part, and it's you're there to get married. And it is your husband's day as well. Obviously, us brides take on so much pressure, but they are most likely wanting to help and just probably terrified to ask. Just don't forget that. And I forgot it plenty of times, so many times through the planning. I was so overwhelmed. And so you just need that little moment where you just stop and think, I think. It's just, I reiterated enough. Everyone there is there to make sure you have the best day of your life. You're not there to make sure they have the best day of their life. If you're weighing up trying to get people to carry seats back somewhere, or even like we had our groomsmen serving champagne on, they're there to help you, and people will fall over themselves to help you for your wedding. So take advantage of it, and you won't regret it.
So good. Great advice. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post-wedding blues?
No post-wedding blues. I'm so glad it's over. But I did wonder if I would kind of get on the other side and regret not getting something or regret getting something, and none of that's happened. So we've just really enjoyed finally being able to be parents. And just, I think we're loving married life and loving now that the wedding is kind of off our plate, because it is a huge, huge weight on your shoulders. And the moment it's lifted, you actually do just get to sit back and enjoy each other.
Oh, so good. And so amazing to hear all about your experience. I'd love to chat a bit about your business, Nell and Nui. Can you tell us a bit of your journey, what gave you the idea, and how you kind of got into it?
So Nell and Nui came off of my brother's wedding, actually. I'd kind of seen, people out with their cricket machines doing all their DIYs, and I thought, how about I do that for my brother as my wedding present to him? So I do have, graphic design training, and I work as a corporate marketing manager. So I was kind of looking for a creative outlet. And so I did his wedding signs. Leading up to that is kind of like practices. I had, other friends' events that I did signs for, but his was definitely the big show. And, we spared no budget. We just kind of did a sign and, all the custom bits and bobs that you could do. And obviously he had an incredible photographer, so she did such a good job of capturing those. And that's kind of what not blew Nell and Nui up, but really set me up as a vendor for weddings. And their wedding was at Bailey's Farm, and so that again snowballed. I do a Bailey's Farm wedding probably once a month now. They're so incredible up there, and I think a lot of brides get there and they use very similar vendors to what's been there, because they know it works, and that's been huge for my business. But I just do it on the side amongst working and being a mum, so it's quite busy, but I do pull Ethan into it where I can. And that's pretty much our story.
So cool. It's amazing work that you do. Can you tell us a bit about your services a bit more, what kind of things you make and what you do for people?
So we are pretty strictly signage and accessories. I would say we fall in the category of, we no longer do soft print like menus, but we still do the designs of them. But I tend to just allow brides to source their printing themselves, and they just go do it through Warehouse Stationery or something like that. It's so much more affordable than me charging $400-500 for an invite suite. So that's pretty much what we do. We do all the bar signage, your welcome seating chart, backdrops, place cards, wishing wells, all that good stuff, all those little nice to have things. But I, even though it's my business, I still wouldn't say they're necessities. They are just accessories to your day. I know a lot of people still do them, but if it's not in your budget, don't put it in your budget.
Yeah, nice to have for sure. It definitely kind of elevates the whole look. And I love what you did with your day as well, which we'll definitely share some photos. But so cool. And have you noticed any kind of trends coming through this season, or that you think we'll be seeing more of in upcoming weddings?
Yes. Oh my gosh, this new trend that I would have been so tempted to do, but I feel like it's literally just popping up, is this super moody vibe. I'm seeing, a lot of maroons and those really, really dark forest greens, and even pairing those together, I'm noticing it, and it is so romantic. I'm just loving it. And that, usually paired with like a lot of greenery in terms of florals. And so it's kind of like out with the pastels, and they've just flipped it on its head, and I am obsessed. It's probably lucky it didn't pop up just before our wedding, because I think I would have followed that trend.
So good. I've loved seeing that pop up. There's just like deep tones and can be really beautiful. Is there any kind of tips or advice that you wanted to give? You've given so much already in our chat, but from the kind of vendor perspective.
I think I've said it before, but making the day yours. And as a vendor, like if you do come through Nell and Nui, we're very, very firm on giving you a custom look. And I know it's so easy to see something on Pinterest that you love. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to create things along those lines, but make it yours. If someone's, offering up, like florals and whatnot, don't just give them a photo and say this, just add your elements to it so it is special to your day. And we much prefer doing that. We want to give you guys something that no one else has had. So if you come to us with inspo, we love it, but we, again, will just put our own spin on it that makes it yours. And I just think that makes you, you can look back at your photos and you're not looking at a recreation of someone else's wedding.
Yeah, such good advice. It's so easy to get caught up in those trends or see a really amazing wedding featured in a magazine or online, and I don't know, you do kind of see people just copying like every single thing they've done, but thinking about what represents you as a couple is true to you and your style. Such good advice. Amazing. It's been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there anything else you wanted to add or that we missed as we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you for doing these podcasts. When I saw this pop up, I was just glued to it every week. I just think it's so, so handy, listening to everyone's experience and being able to take all the tips and tricks that maybe, your friends haven't mentioned after their weddings or, siblings haven't mentioned. It's just so nice to have a platform that really is sharing the nitty gritty of weddings, because it is an insane process to go through.
Oh, grateful for you listening and supporting, and been so cool to tell your story on here. I know people are going to get a lot out of it.
Thanks for having me.